If you're new to the channel, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe and leave a comment down below. And also check out our partners, Nerds in the Hood, down in the description. And I hope to see you later on. Peace out.
Alright, what's up y'all? So this week I was able to do a video a little bit early in the week to guarantee that you guys have a video. I don't know when exactly this is going to be released in terms of, I'm recording this on Wednesday of November 7th, I believe, yes. So I'm not really sure exactly when I'm going to release this. It depends. If I can kind of edit this right now, then obviously it'll go up tonight, or if not, it'll be up tomorrow, or the following day. But whatever. Anyways, so I want to talk about something that I saw in a Reddit post, and I'm pretty sure this is not like a guarantee that this is going to happen, but something that was very interesting that might happen, and that would be if Static Shock were to come to the DC streaming universe, since the Titans is a relative success. Now, yes, I know the show Titans have like some mixed reviews, not really mixed reviews, but for the most part, a lot of people seem to be enjoying it. I like what they're doing with the show so far, and as long as they continue to kind of do this kind of writing style that they're going for, and even the edginess, it kind of works for the show. But anyways, let's kind of get into what we're talking about. So if Static Shock were to kind of get on the DC streaming universe, it kind of would make things a lot more intriguing, as well as expand that DC universe, as well as what other heroes could exist along with the Teen Titans and other teams out there like the Doom Patrol and such as like that. Now, like I said, Static Shock would actually be something that they would want to do, mostly because Black Lightning just proves that there's a market for predominantly black cast shows. I don't know why I was struggling to say that, but there is a market for it. And don't get me wrong, Black Lightning, in my opinion, was for the most part, it's pretty solid, and it's relative to what is going on in very much urban communities when it comes to African Americans, Hispanics, whatever like that. If you live in those areas, it's a very big point in which a lot of us can relate to if we live in those kind of areas, or areas that are very similar. But like I said, it's a little bit more politically driven in terms of some of the terms that they use, as well as how subtle some of those things are. They're not really subtle at all, actually. They're kind of like relatively obvious. They blatantly say a few things, and they definitely take some liberties to mention a few things outwardly, just to kind of, I guess, hit you in the face with it. And I guess that's kind of the point of the show, where as an adult, like I said, when I saw the Static Shock show on TV, at the time I was not reading any of the Static Shock comics. I read the comics because of the show, but I was not actually very much into Static Shock comics. But like I said, as a teenager, I related to Static Shock. But then obviously as you get older, like I said, I'm pretty much 25 at this point, you kind of grow out of, I won't say grow out of it, but the way that you view the world and your maturity level does change over the course of time. So basically, Black Lightning is meant for those who kind of grew up in these situations, and you're kind of approaching the final product, or an age where you want things to change and you have more power to do it simply by voting and going out there to making sure we have things for our communities, community programs and such like that. But it's supposed to be a more outward show regarding the activities that take place in communities, and it's supposed to be kind of obvious, and it is a CW, so they're going to take political agendas and kind of make it ridiculously obvious. But when it comes to Static Shock, it's a little more subtle than that, and I think I would take the formula that they did for the animated show, where for the most part, a lot of the episodes were him kind of battling villains, but there were episodes in which he was dealing with personal issues when Richie and his father were actually not Richie, but his father was very much racist. Virgil had some run-in with the police before, and even when Virgil went to Africa and kind of got in connection with his roots and him feeling more comfortable with himself as an African American, those episodes are really what made the episode pop as a whole. Now, what also gave Static Shock some clout, but also what made people kind of relate to it is the choices that Virgil had to make. Especially, there was one episode, I believe, where it was a character named Jimmy. He was shooting his friend, I believe. I can't remember off the top of my head what exactly happened. I haven't seen the show as of recently. I probably should, just because it is on the DC streaming app. But like I said, they dealt with the fact that Jimmy actually shot one of Virgil's friends, and he still believed he didn't deserve to go to jail for it, because I think ultimately it was like kind of an accident, so to speak. He meant to fire the gun, but not to shoot somebody. But the results of the show was very much powerful, because like I said, during that time it was younger viewers and so many ways to interpret the narrative, and there was no good or bad guy with when it came to a lot of their villains, actually. In a lot of cases, when it came to Static Shock, a lot of those villains were a side effect of the Big Bang, which was the event that gave everyone in Dakota their abilities. Not everyone in Dakota, but most of those young teenagers their powers So a lot of them didn't know how to deal with it. Some of them, like Static and Richie, and even Rubber Band Man, who started out as a villain, then converted over to being a hero along with Static because he started dating his sister in the series. A lot of them actually, became heroes, and a lot of them became villains, and a lot of them just were, relatively neutral, where they had powers, but they never used them for good or bad. They just wanted to kind of live their normal lives. So it kind of did explain, like, growing up as a teenager as a whole, as well as the fact that they were kind of growing up in these urban communities with powers and trying to figure out what to do with their lives, and whether or not they were going to use it for very, nefarious purposes, or were they going to become heroes and help their community and change it, which Black Lightning kind of touches on. But like I said, it's for a different age range. I feel like it's a little bit more, I guess I would say mature, but definitely Static Shock does have a crowd that really wants to see that show. And now also the episode, and even in general, there were a lot of episodes that really were in response to gun violence in these communities, where, like, Black people are not known for shooting up schools and churches and stuff like that. And I'm not going to get into who statistically has been shooting up more schools and churches, but they were a response to gun violence and trying to prevent those things from happening in urban communities because of lack of community programs and stuff like that for young people to participate in order for them to not be forced to kind of fight with each other, or they had somewhere to go if they did not feel safe and stuff like that. But there were, like I said, there were very interesting shows and episodes within Static Shock, and like I said, there is a crowd for it due to the political nature of things that are going on today. So it would very much be interesting if they did bring it to the DC universe. Like I said, I would stick to the formula of the show, where for the most part there would not be any consistent villain, at least for the first maybe 7 to 8 episodes. But because Static Shock and even the show, they did have enough villains where you could make someone a overall bad, at least for season 1. Me personally, I think I would start Yvonne. Now, Yvonne was that giant, shadowy, the dude who looked like black and purple, where for the most part he was extremely consistent through the 3 or 4 seasons that Static Shock was actually on TV. But Yvonne was he was a gang leader previously before the Big Bang, and he was right there at the docks. And remember, Virgil in the show actually joined the opposite gang temporarily, just so he can deal with Yvonne, who was kind of bullying him or whatever at the time, and he needed some form of protection. The Big Bang happened, then everybody kind of just dispersed and the gangs kind of fell apart, so to speak. But Yvonne gained the ability to have like these shadow-like powers where he can open portals, and he can kind of travel through the shadows, and his strength was even more enhanced during a point in time when it's really dark, or when he's just, like I said, around multiple shadows. So he was someone I think you should start off as a villain, mostly because his powers itself are a reflection of kind of who he is. Like he was a really dark and kind of evil person, so to speak. And also in a lot of ways he was I would say he was relatively intelligent in the show. They depicted him as somebody who he had a plan, and he will follow that plan, and he knew what to do in order to get the things that he needed in order to execute his plan. And there was a couple times his plan worked, but there was a way to reverse the effects of what happened. And ultimately Static and Richie Gear at that point actually figured out what to do in order to stop these things from happening again, as well as, like I said, stop him as a whole. So I think I would do Yvonne as a villain for season 1, so that way they can kind of build upon like what happened with the Big Bang, but they don't get too deep into it. You just know that people have these abilities because it will allow them to kind of search the internet and figure out what the Big Bang really was and how it affected different people, and the possible villains and superheroes and kind of crossovers you can expect to see for the show. But that's just my 2 cents about why the DC streaming universe probably should put Static Shock, just because there simply is a market for it due to the success of Black Lightning. But if you're new to the channel, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And let me know what you thought about Black Lightning, as well as what did you think about Static Shock as a whole when you were watching it as a series, and do you think they should bring it onto the DC streaming universe? And I'll catch you later on. Peace out.